Let's now look at the composition of the project brief itself, reminding you first that an agreed project brief is used to provide a full and firm foundation for the initiation of the project and will ensure that the project has a commonly understood and well-defined start point. So let's look at the content, starting with the project definition. You may have heard the phrase terms of reference. Well, that is somewhat similar to what PRINCE2 calls the project definition. It contains the background leading up to the project, what the objectives are that the project needs to meet, what the outcomes expected. In other words, once the end products have been embedded within the operational areas, what is expected from them. An example of one outcome might be a quicker response time to customer requests, for example, if it's a business information system. The project scope and exclusions, what is included and what isn't, any particular constraints that the project needs to be delivered within. Very much similar to the different aspects of tolerances may be appropriate here. Timescale, cost, and so on. Another example of a constraint, it might be based on leading edge or trailing edge technology, and any assumptions that are being made at this point. This is quite important because it will help the project board to make decisions based on such assumptions. Tolerances for the project as a whole, you will remember, can only be set by corporate or program management, and it would be the project board executive's responsibility to make sure these are requested, obtained and included here if they were not already available and stated within the project mandate. This lays out the key users, interested parties, key stakeholders if you will, and interfaces will be referring at a fairly high level, perhaps to other groups or organisations that need to be involved in this particular project. Next is the outline business case, which I've talked about a little already, contains as a minimum the reasons why the project is needed. Indeed, that's the whole purpose of a business case, to say why it makes sense to proceed and that the benefits obtained are worth the costs and the risks of the project itself. The outline business case will also include the business option that's selected. So we'll look a little later when we cover the business case theme on exactly what we mean by business options. Next section is the project product description. Now don't worry, I've got a slide coming up in a minute which describes the content of that in detail, but for now contains the customer's quality expectations, a rather strange term possibly, and the user acceptance criteria and the operations and maintenance acceptance criteria. Now in essence, the customer's quality expectations described the quality that would be expected of the project's product and any particular standards or processes that were needed to apply in order to achieve that quality. Now this is quite an important point because of course the quality that's expected will have a huge influence on aspects such as the project cost and timescales, including, for example, development processes and approach needed. Now the acceptance criteria is merely a list of prioritized and measurable criteria that the project end product must meet in order for it to be acceptable to the users. Now the end product is actually the sum total of several project products normally, and these must also be acceptable to the folks who will operate and maintain these products in their operational life. Continuing with the project brief composition is the project approach, and this covers the choice of the solution that's used, referencing, if you remember, the business option that was chosen from the business case. An approach might encompass aspects such as whether you're going to use an existing product and modify it, or do a brand new design, or to use leading edge or trailing edge technology, or possibly whether the resources will be available from solely within your organization or to outsource some or all aspects of its development. You can see how important this is in choosing this early in the project so that when you come to plan the project plan will be based upon that project approach. And the project approach also has a huge influence on aspects of quality, for example. So the project approach is not simply a statement, but a description of the ways that the project can be delivered, and should include the recommended approach. Project management team structure, normally represented by a chart showing who will be involved in the project. This could be embedded in a Word document, for example, or it could be a simple list for smaller projects. Whichever makes best sense. Remember, you will have role descriptions created separately, and this aspect will be accompanied by their role descriptions, which will include those in the project management team and any other resources that may be identified at this time. For example, project support or other key stakeholders, possibly external consultants, and so on. Finally, references, which calls in any associated documents or products. For example, if the project mandate was as a result of the final report in a feasibility study, this might reference documents that led up to or supported or were created from within that feasibility study. It may also relate to an existing product, particularly, for example, if the project approach was based on an original design, in which case that product would be referenced here.